Hi everyone, my name's James and welcome to the Oomph Advanced Masterclass. So today, over the next hour, we're going to be going through a few Oomph features. We're going to be going through action hotspots and objects, so how to create and use action hotspots, combining action hotspots and Oomph features. Oomph custom animation. So we're going to explore some examples of custom animation, and I'm going to take you through how to create the examples we've got. You will be getting the files at the end of this as well, and this session is being recorded, so you can come back at any time and have a look. I'll be going through those animation files that some of you may be wondering about. Web and HTML. So we're going to be looking at using a HTML page with Oomph, and also how a web clip is set up. Advanced utilities. We're going to be looking at language localization and geolocation and searching your app using content search. So, and then we'll have some questions at the end, and we've got a few requirements. So if you want to play with these files and have a test, you either have to have Oomph Editor or an iPad with Oomph Viewer, and PC or Mac with the following requirements. So let's get started. Remember, you can pop in a question at any time. Leanne is moderating today. Also, we will be posting some useful links for you, and as always, we'll have question time at the end. And also, you can raise your hand at any time if you do want to ask something, or if I'm going too fast, just let me know. Okay, let's start off with action hotspots. In essence, an action hotspot is a button that can be tapped to control other elements on the page. You can apply a series of actions to the same element, or different actions to many different elements. So, what elements can you control? You can control layers, slideshows, videos, objects, and widgets. So I'll be showing you examples of all of these shortly. And what can you actually do to these? You can have custom and default animations. So say you tap on a button, you can have an animation occur. You can change the size of the hotspot. You can change the position of it, so move it around your iPad page. You can go to a specific page number. You can play, stop, and pause video, and you can cause transitions to take effect. So let's have a look at a few examples. So here we've got a few action hotspots on this page. So first of all, I'm just going to show you if you want to tap to animate. So obviously you can tap on these, and these all do different things. So you can see here now this is scaling up and scaling down again. So let's quickly show you how I set this up in my iPad file. We'll go to the top of my Indesign document here. Oops, there's a few things I'll be showing you. That. Right, so just using InDesign like we all do. Whoops, sorry, just size my page. All right, so here we go. This is this document we've been working on currently. Okay, so we have our hotspot here. So this is just what's going to be in here. Here's our object 1, and then all we have is action, object 1, and pulse. So simply in our Finder, we're currently in action hotspots. We have our object 1, as you can see. There's a lovely picture of some lavender. And then in animations, we just simply have a pulse animation. And really, tap it and it'll play. I'll quickly show you our animation file for pulse. Most of you guys out there have probably downloaded the Oomph animations from the documentation page. If you haven't, check it out. There's a good page explaining how to use animations effectively, and there's a few examples you can download. So Pulse is being one of them. If you haven't seen this before, I'll give you a quick breakdown. We will be going through this later on in this tutorial in more detail. But don't be scared by the little bit of code here. It's pretty straightforward. When you download it from the Oomph documentation page, this is what you'll get. It'll already be written out, and you can edit the timing as you see fit. So you see here, first of all, we've got duration. This is meaning the amount of seconds the animation will play for. So as you can see in our, go to my simulator, it's taking 1 second to create, to animate. So for a period of 1 second, it's going to be playing over. Sorry. There's no rotation. You can rotate these if you really want to. Translation is moving it across the page, so which we will cover later on. But the main thing we want to pay attention to here is scale. It's going from 90%, so the first digit here, the 1 would stand for 100%, so 90% it's scaling down to. It's starting off at 100%, as you can see up here. And the reason it's repeating is because we've got repeat, auto reverse, ease in, ease out. So this is going to continue to repeat, as we can see here. So all it is really starting off at 100%, scaling down to 90%, and repeating that over and over again. And we just simply create a hotspot there saying action, object 1, and an animation file name, which is Pulse. So quickly close that. And as for these animation files, when you do download them from the Oomph documentation page, if you're working on a Mac, it's best to just use TextEdit to open them. It'll just be like a plain text file. And then when you are in your Oomph bundle, it sits in your animation folder. So you'll have your section folder. In this case, we've got action hotspots. Then you have, your pages, objects, movies, slideshows, and it'll just sit neatly in your animation folder with Pulse. And just be aware that this name here, Pulse, must be the same as your animation you've got here, the animation name you have here. It is case sensitive, so if you have a capital at the start, you must have a capital in your folder. All right, let's look at our next example. And we'll be doing some animation stuff in our next step as well, some more advanced stuff. All right, so sizing. So our next hotspot obviously goes to a smaller size and back up to the original. So it's good if you want to minimize any elements on the page, give a bit more room, maybe have something else appearing in that space. And it's quite simple to do. So as you can see, down to a very small size, top corner, and then back up to the original. What we've got there, we have object 2, as we had before. I'll show you that in my source folder. So object 2, and this can be JPEG, PNG, any image file you see fit. And we've got a lovely picture of a plant again, and it's just S1-1 PDF. So how do we do that? We have 2 buttons or 2 hotspots. So action, object 2, this is object 2, and then size 50 pixels by 50 pixels. So it's going to be making it nice and small thumbnail size, and the original, sorry, that's percentage, sorry, original. So as you can see, size 50-50 and size equal original. You could make that a larger size if you really wanted to. So here you would just type in 120, then colon 120, but we've just got original because we wanted to go back to the original sizing. These refers to height and width, so 50 and 50 there, and that's basically how you change the size. There's not too much more to explain, it's fairly simple. We'll just go back to it again and have a look. So there we go. If there's any questions at any time, of course, please do let me know, and Leanne will point it out to me and I'll hopefully help you guys out. So positioning. You can also change positions around the page. So as you can see here, we've changed our XY coordinates, and keeping in mind that our XY coordinates refer to the width and height of your iPad page. X and Y starts here, so think of where my mouse is hovering over here. Pretend this is our iPad screen. The top left-hand corner is going to be the coordinate 0, 0. So 0 pixels by 0 pixels. Across here, where my mouse is currently hovering, that's 768 pixels, because that's the iPad dimension. So the width of your iPad screen, when in portrait orientation, is 768 pixels. Down below here is 1024, or 1024 pixels. So naturally, this is going to be 0, 0. This is 768 by 0. This is 0 by 1024. And down the very bottom corner here, where my mouse is currently hovering, is 768 and 1024. So what we've got here, we're moving it up to this position and back down to the original. So let's look at the hotspot for that. I'll just repeat it again, up into the top corner, and then down to our original position. So for our hotspot, what we have is, and we look down here in my hyperlinks panel, action, object 3, because this is object 3. And we've got position 100 by 100. And that means we're going to move it up to around here, around on top of this action hotspots. So remember, this part of my page, this is 0, 0. This is 1024. This is 768. So up here is going to be about 100, 100. So 100 pixels down from the top of your page and 100 pixels in from the left-hand side. And then original is going to be just where it's starting. So this is our starting position where this object currently is. You could have this going to a new position. So say I wanted to move it to this top left-hand corner. I would have it, approximately 700 pixels by about 100 pixels down here, and I'd have it moving over here. But what we've got here is starting here, moving to top left-hand corner, and then going back to the original. So, and that being 100, and little colon or semicolon there, and 100. So I'll just, in case you guys can't see it, I'll just see if I can zoom in. Can no? I know it is quite small, so I'll quickly show you what your hotspot's going to look like, because I know that we have heard that sometimes this can be a bit small. So your hotspot is going to look, just for those like me who are a little bit hard of seeing things that are very small. So action, object 3, position 100 to 100. So this is your X coordinate, this is going across the screen, and this is your Y coordinate, this is going down the screen. And then our final outcome is going to be moving it like that. So again, 100 by 100. All right, now let's look at some transitions. So page numbering. So as you can see, this is just moving across our next page. Previous to 4, next 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for some of you out there, if you're working in magazines, this is good for slideshows. It's good for, say, if you're doing a travel feature in a magazine, you know, if you've got 5 top spots to see, you could simply have, you know, your heading and, you know, 5 top spots, and then, you know, backward and forward through those locations. And you can sort of, this doesn't have to be small, it can be quite large. You can have anything in here, text, video, images, whatever you see fit. It is just an object, and we'll look at that in our source file. So page numbering, we've got our IPS2. So you can actually use this to control other Oomph features. So we haven't just got an object here, it's actually an IPS2. So if you come back to iOS Simulator, you can actually swipe this as well. So it gives the user sort of more than one way of interacting with it. Say if, you know, they're used to swiping, they can by all means swipe. Otherwise, you can just go through the pages like this. So let's have a look at this. So we've got IPS2, and then these buttons up here, action, IPS2, page equals next. So as well as objects, you can manipulate Oomph features using action hotspots. And this one is just action, IPS2, page equals previous. And you can do this to normal objects as well, but in this case we've done it to an in-page slideshow. Right. So a next feature is a video file. So this is a video file in here. We've got a placeholder in there like we normally do. So this is an IPv1. Underneath that, when we're setting up the file, we've just taken a screenshot of that so something appears on the page before you play the in-page video. So as a normal in-page video works, we can tap on this to play it. But we've got some extra controls here up the top. So you see we've got pause. You can pause it where it currently is. Play it again from that point, or you can stop it entirely. It goes back to the start, hit play, and it'll begin again. So let's have a look at these hotspots, shall we? So again, this is our IPv1, in-page video 1. And these buttons up here, our action hotspots, it's just simply action, IPv1, so the name of our object or Oomph feature, and then play with a small p. And the same thing up here, action, IPv1, you just have to simply put in pause. And then up the top here, action, in-page video 1, and you just have to simply put in stop. So it's pretty simple to make, and it doesn't take that much extra time as it would to put in an in-page video. All you have to do is make a few simple buttons, and just on the end of your action hotspot, just put comma play, pause, or stop. And you still have the same functionality of the in-page video as you do with normal Oomph features. So you can pause it, you know, make it larger. Obviously, this is a very small one, so I wouldn't suggest making it full screen. But by all means, you can do this to any video hotspot you do have. All right, now finally, transitions. So here we've got a few transitions bundled into this final object. You'll see we've got, you know, the first one is a fade, the second one is pushing up from the bottom, this one's flipping, and this one is curling, so page curl transition. So how do we do that? So object 4, as before, we've got a few pages in that object. I'll just go to it to show you. Object 4, and this is a multi-page object. So we have 2, 3, and 4, and these are all just normal PDFs. There's no hotspots on them, nothing too special about them, just a normal object file. We don't have any animations for this, so we won't be needing anything there. All you need is your normal object, and this is all in the hotspots. So the first one, action, object 4, so we're causing this to change, page equals next, so moving to the next page, so page 2, and the transition is dissolve. These are all automatic transitions you'll find on the Oomph documentation page when we're talking about action hotspots. We'll probably post a link to this at the end. I'll quickly go there now to show you how simple it is. So let's get a new page up, go to Oomph documentation. And you've probably all seen this many times before. Let's type in transition. See what comes up. So we've got objects, we've got transitions. Here we go. Let's see here. So a style of animation, transitioning between pages and slides. So you can see here we've got a few. So no transition. So that's if you had action, object 1, page equals next, and it simply appeared. We've got dissolve, fade through black, push, push vertical, flip, and curl. So these are all the transition names you can use in your hotspot. And we've got a small description naming, sort of saying what each of them do. And let's go back and have a look here to just minimize that. So our second one, you guys remember on the second one, it moved up from the bottom. So for this, we've just simply named it action, object 4, page equals next. Transition is push vertical, all lowercase, one word, no spaces. So push vertical, and that's exactly what it's doing. So it's pushing up from the bottom. So push vertical, there we go. The next one, it's flipping, much like a card flip, except we're not tapping on the hotspot to cause that to happen. So number 3, action, object 4, page equals next, transition equals flip. So fairly simple again. And then finally, action, object 4, page equals next, transition equals curl. And again, that's exactly what it's doing here. So it's curling up from the bottom, much like a page turn. And if you remember from our support page, they're all here. So curl, flip, push vertical, push. That's going to be moving left to right. Push vertical is just moving top to bottom, or bottom to top, I should say. Fade through black, it fades out to black, then fades into the next slide. And dissolve, a gradual dissolve or fade transition, which we have on the first one. Let's go back and have a look at that. So it's a subtle change to the next slide, which is quite nice. And that's just a few examples of action hotspots. If you guys have any questions at any time, do raise it with Leanne, and she'll do her best to answer it, or else she'll tell me what I need to say, and I'll tell you guys. So let's go on to our next part, which is custom animations. So ignoring our robot for a moment, you guys have all probably seen before a number of animation features in Oomph. If you have had training with any Oomph designers, we've probably talked about animations, and it's one of the main and I think sort of most interesting points of the Oomph platform because they're quite simple to do. So I'll just quickly go down to that page in my InDesign document. So this is the page we're currently on in my simulator. So it's just an Oomph document, and we've got a little robot here. He's currently stationary. So when you turn onto the page, he'll start animating. So he moves left to right, left to right. So, and we've got him stopping after a period of time. That's why he didn't stop before. So let's look at how we're going to do that. So as before, we've got robot 1 moved left, right. So this is a custom animation. So you've probably all used all sort of our our built-in animations before, such as moving from left, moving from top, moving from bottom, moving from right. And these ones are very similar to that. It's just naming it and then creating an animation file to go with it, much like we did with our pulse before with scaling up and down. So let's go to our Finder, custom animations, and we'll see here we've got our pages like we have normally, and then instead of object 1 we have robot 1, and there's a picture of our little blue robot in there. And that's just a normal S1-1. That can also be a JPEG, PNG, whatever file you guys normally use. That can be. And all we've got there is, you'll see just an animation name here, move left, right. It doesn't have to be all uppercase, but this had, well, the first letter of each word is uppercase, but it has to match your animation name in your animation folder. So let's have a look at that. So in animations, we've got a few, and you'll notice that this is the one we're going to be using for the blue robot, move left to right. So this name must be the same as this, and it is case sensitive. So if you accidentally miss like one of the L's, it won't work properly. So you must have the same name in there. So let's have a look at why it's moving left and right and how we can edit that. So we'll go down here, and I'm going to open this up in TextEdit. There's a few different programs you can use, TextEdit being one of them. That's the one I use most of the time. There's also Text Wrangler, which I'll touch on toward the end of the tutorial if you guys don't want to use TextEdit. So let's have a look at this animation file. Again, it's pretty simple. So we've got, and this is very similar to the moving in, left, right, top, bottom, if you guys have used that before. So duration, this lasts each cycle, each time the robot moves left to right, it lasts for 2 seconds. So again, that's a second value. There's no delay. You can put a delay on it if you wish. Our options, we've got ease in, ease out, auto reverse, and repeat. So I'll come back to that in a moment and explain exactly what that's doing. This is repeating 5 times, so it's not just going to be moving left to right once, it's going to go 5 times. And now the position is what is also quite important here. So like I said before about the dimensions of your iPad screen, so 0, 1024, 768, all those numbers we have to remember. These are referring to those numbers once again, so minus 150 and 150. So if you look at the section I've got highlighted now on screen, minus 150 refers to the x coordinate, so this is going across. The 0 after the comma here, we've got 0, 0. That's the y coordinate, so that's going up and down. You'll notice that our blue robot isn't moving up or down, he's just moving across. So we really don't need to pay much attention to these, just keep them to 0. So this is our from value, so he's going minus 150 to 150. The reason he's going minus 150 is because the hotspot is starting in the center of the page, so this is technically a 0, 0. So this corner here is what it's going to be referring to. When it goes to minus 150, it's going to be starting at the edge, so it's going to be going 150 pixels past the point of this corner where my mouse is currently hovering. So really, it's going to be starting over here. And then when it finishes up, you'll notice in our TextEdit file, it's going to 150. So that's going to go across to about that point there. So remember, this is 0, 0 because it started here. That's 0, 0 minus 150 plus 150. So it's going to be finishing up around here. And that's why in our file, play that. So this is the original position where the hotspot is, but when he animates, he's going to be starting here. And he just repeats. We've got to repeat on it for 5, so 5 rotations of this, but you'll notice that we've got ease in, ease out. So that's when it starts, he'll slowly start, and then ease out, he'll slowly finish. So you see there in the background. Well, we've got an auto reverse and a repeat. So this means once he gets to the end, he's going to go back and repeat the process. So it's going to be more than 5. But we've just got a total repeat count for a single rotation of this as 5 times. And each time he moves across, 2 seconds. So that's it. So they're quite easy to manipulate. We can slow him down if we want to. We can change the repeat count. You just have to just change these values, close your file, and make sure it saves. So our pink robot. Page, and then started pulsing. So we'll go down to this page. You see, slightly smaller box, robot 2, and we've just named it Move In Pulse. Right, so this is where we're going to be combining 2 animations together. Still going. So here, robot 2, we'll put our pink robot. Nothing special about this, just a normal S1-1, a PDF file. So, and we've got Move In Pulse. So let's have a look at this animation file. This one is a little bit longer. Don't be too scared by it because it's nothing horrible. And really, I'll just show you the previous one we did as well so you guys can see the main difference. So you'll see at the end of this one, we had a completion state, which I didn't go through before. This is what we're going to be playing with in this one. So because normally, this is a single animation. It's going to be doing one single thing, moving left to right, and we're going to repeat that. That's all that one's doing. What this one does, as you can see, first of all, he moved in, then he scaled up. So there's two things. Once it completes the first one, it's going to automatically do the second one, which is what we're going to be covering here. So we'll just pay attention to this first part that I've highlighted here. And you'll see, as before, we've got our opening bracket, we've got animation, and this is just stating what it's going to do. Duration, it lasts for 1 second, so he moved in quite quickly. And so from value, here, we don't have any options on this. From, it starts from -768, and because this is moving on from the side of the page, -768 is off the iPad page, because you all know we start at 0. Because this is a page animation rather than an object one, it's moving in from here, so it's going to be actually editing the whole thing and moving off the page. So it's starting from minus and ending at 0, and 0 being where it starts. Well, where it starts in your iPad document here. So, and that lasts for 1 second. So starts off the page, moves on the page, 1 second. That's our first part of the animation. Then once we get to completion, which we saw before, normally it just ends there. We have another bracket, and then inside here we have another animation. So again, duration, it lasts for 1 second. Delay, there's no delay on this. And as you can see in the options, we've got a repeat, auto reverse, and it's easing in and easing out. So it's slowly animating up and down. And the repeat count is 1,000. That's why when we look at our pink robot, he keeps going. So the repeat count there, 1,000. He's going to do that 1,000 times before he stops, which for most people it's going to seem indefinite because they're not going to stay on the page that long. So how are we actually controlling the size that he scales to? So this is where it starts. He starts at 100%. So he moves onto the page at 100% of his size. And then there's no rotation. You can rotate this if you want, so he could sort of rotate while scaling up and down if you really wanted to. And translation, again, is moving on the page, but we didn't want any of that. So from, he's just sitting on the page at 100%. 2, he's going up to 1.1. Well, so the first one is 100, and then that's another 10%. So as you can see, 110%. So he starts there, and as he moves up, it's 110% of his original size. And then we have our completion. So this is really two animations in one. We have one here, which you would normally see, and that's very similar to moving onto the page, like moving from left. And then in the completion state, we've just popped in another bracket, put in another animation, this one being a pulse, which we had, as you remember, in this file, so pulsing up and down. So if you have often used maybe a pulse on one page of one of your magazines, and then you've moved left, sort of used a, moving from left or moving from right, there's no reason why you guys can't sort of have a play and actually combine the two together to get something, a little bit different. So there's another way of doing this as well. Oh, sorry, I've got a bit of a cough. And there's a third one. So you see this one actually does two animations at the same time, whereas our pink robot, you see, he moved in, then he started pulsing up and down. This one, this pulses as it fades in. So it's still having two animations, but it's doing them simultaneously. So let's have a look at that page. Again, we've got robot 3, and this one we've just called pulse fade. Just again, these can be any name you want. So you can just call this animation 1 if you really wanted to, but it does have to have the same name as here. All right. So how do we pull off that effect? We'll just go back and we'll look at how he animates again. Simulator. So go down onto the page, and as you can see, starts off at a low opacity, and as he's pulsing, fades in and out again. So it's doing two things at once. So fading in and out and pulsing up and down. So let's have a look at how we've done that. So, and the first thing you'll probably note when you do look at this up close, when you download it, is that we only have one completion. This isn't combining sort of one animation, then on completion starting another one. This is actually having two things happen at once. So what have we got happening first? So duration, the whole cycle is lasting for 4 seconds, and there's a half-second delay on it. That just means when we come onto the page, for half a second he sort of just sits there and then he starts, which is really not that noticeable. So type alpha Alpha means it's going to be something to do with the opacity of the object you're using. So in other words, fading in and fading out. For options, we repeat this, auto reverse, easy and ease out. So that just means we repeat it over and over and over again. So 0.2, it's going to be starting at 20% opacity, which we've all noticed. So as we come onto the page, he starts quite pale and then obviously gains. And we've got that to 99%. If we had a 1 there, it'd just be, normally we do 100%, but this one we've kept at 99 to show you can. So, and this goes for 1 second. So in rather than having completion, which would mean we'd have the fade in happening, then we'd have a pulse, we want this to occur at the same time. So we've just continued this. We've popped in a comma, another bracket. So this part here means that there's going to be another part to this animation. Normally we'd stop here, we'd have the completion if we wanted it, or it'd just end. We've got a comma, starting the new, I suppose, paragraph, and what happens lasts for 1 second, there's no delay. And again, we're repeating auto-reversing, easy in and out, same as here, but rather than fading in and fading out, we're starting at 100%. So scale 1 to 1, and no rotation, no translation. Of course, you could rotate it if you wanted to, so you'd start at just a normal value, and then we're finishing in another one, and then we're going to 90%. So 0.9, 0.9. So in total, we're going from 20% opacity to 99, with his size changing from 100% down to 90%. So he's going to be scaling down. And the main difference between this animation and the last one, as we saw before, this one moves in, then starts scaling. This one does the two at the same time. And that's reflected in the fact that we don't have a completion up here. We have it down here. Like, we don't actually have a completion. It's sitting at the end. And these two speech marks here just mean that there's nothing happening in there. So what I've got here, instead of having, we'll have a normal animation, normally say completion, we just pop close bracket, put a comma in there, and then put in a whole new animation. Finish it off, and then completion. Much the same as we do in the normal one. And that's most of our custom animations. Move on to something else now. If you do have any questions at all, please do let Leanne know, and we'll do our very best to answer them. But hopefully that made sense. Now let's move on to, sorry guys, web clips and HTML. So some of you before may have used web clips. Oh, we have a question. Yep.
In the case of a moving robot, what's the benefit of having a start of -150 instead of just moving the actual robot or object to position and start at 0?
So rather than starting at 0, say if we, just get my simulator, well, one. Okay. So that was with this guy, I think. And I'll just get my animation files up. That's a very good question. Thank you. Okay, so move left right was the one that you were asking about. So we'll just remove that. Okay, so move left right was actually, that was our original robot. So it was our blue guy. Yep, okay. So we'll go to that file. So this one, you probably could start it over on this side of the page. We've just kept ours in the middle, just to show you can, just to show really that it doesn't have to animate from the point you actually left it on the page, if that makes sense. So by all means, you could have this point being 0 if you really wanted to, and then having it starting from 0, animating across to like 600 or whatever it is. But we've just sort of shown this so you can actually start it at a different point to what it's placed, if that makes sense. So of course, there is no reason why you can't start it over here. By all means, you can. We just did that just to show as an example. If that sounds all right. Is it sounding? Is there any other comments there around that?
I'm answering.
Oh, okay, cool. That's all right. But yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so by all means, you can if you want to. But we just showed that as an example, so you can. If you want any other clarification on that, please do, of course, raise your hand again and ask another question. We're happy to answer. But no, there's no reason why you can't start it over here if you really want to.
Thanks.
No worries at all. Glad we can help. Alrighty, so if any of the other guys have any questions, by all means do ask as well. We're happy to answer them. It's good to get questions. All right, so web clips. So what this is, a web clip is feeding directly from a website. So we've grabbed something from the Financial Standard website here, and we've just fed this through here. So if you've got, say if you've one of your magazines, you do have a live web feed. There's a few out there that do. So I've got a few car magazines using the platform that like to put in live updates, such as events, competitions, things like that. You can put that into the app, so it's you can update it as you need to without submitting content again. So let's have a look at that page. Past our lovely robots. So this is the page we've got. Underneath here, we've just got our grey box surrounding that, and then we've got the red box being our hotspot. So first of all, just pay attention to the blue part I've highlighted. This is just called web clip 1. Then we've got a little bit of code, and I'm going to show you what that is. RACD. So ignore this for a second, guys. I'm just going to get a section that actually works, because some of these do have that had add content in it, and it was sort of a little bit not the best example. So travel. I'm going to use this panel here. So again, web clip. So I want this whole panel. So click on that. Copy this, and this is a lot smaller, as you can see, because that had a lot of extra content actually feeding into it. So it's sort of like copying a feed that has another feed going into it. So probably not the best example. Copy, minimize that. Okay, so we'll click 1 and enable scroll. I'm just going to double check my hotspot naming. So enable scroll, just to make sure that's the same. Always copy it if you're not too sure. Just make sure that is correct. Yep. Okay, I'm going to copy that. This is quite a large one. Delete that. So web clip 1, enable scroll, and then my new feed. That's fine. Okay, now, oops. Go back into my file and web clip. I'm going to delete that page just to be sure. P1-1, page 21, export. Now, let's see, so I've got my page back in there, and it's got, we'll just check the hotspot. It does have the hotspot in there, actions, and enable scroll, and it's got my RACV content in there. Now let's pop that into simulator. And fingers crossed, it'll be okay this time. There we go. All right, so you've got, before you go, and as I said before, the CSS has sort of, well, taken the styling down a little bit. So let's compare it to our original on the website. So before we go, so you'll see here, we've still got, so before you go, preparing to go, traveling with kids, traveling with pets. So it didn't take the images because the CSS we've got actually removes images, which is probably why our old one didn't work, because from Financial Standard, because it was all ads, so it's completely made up of images, and our CSS actually makes images null. So that's probably why. So that scrolls nicely as well. So there you go, that's a web clip. Not too tricky. By all means, if you guys do have any questions, please let Leanne know, and she'll pass them on to me. I'll do our best to answer them. And that's your web clip. So again, if you want to know more about them, please go to the Oomph documentation page, type in web clip, and then all the information you need to know is there. If you've got an Oomph login, which most of you probably do, you can download iPad files with working examples. You can download InDesign files, and the same goes for the stuff we've gone through today. Any of the examples you can download, play with. If you have any problems with them, shoot them through to our support team as well, so we can help you out. I'm on the support team, as is Leanne, our moderator. There's a whole team of us here. We'll be able to help you out. All right. So let's go to our next one, which is using HTML. So this is a HTML page of the Oomph webinar page. All you guys have probably seen it because you did register for the webinars. And we've just popped this in here. And all we've done, which is really quite simple, is we've just grabbed a HTML page for this, all of it, and we've just called it P2-1, and then we'll put it into this folder. That's all we've done. And that's actually it. When we're using HTML content, if you do have HTML content that you do want to put into the app, you just have to, you can put it in an object if you wanted to. We've made this whole page size, and just as you always do with your PDF documents, P2-1, and then instead of .pdf, .html. And the same goes for if you want to put it inside, say if you had an object and you had some HTML content, it'll just be s1-1.html. And that's it for HTML content. Whoops. And as you can see, it works just like normal as well. You can register, and then it'll open up other pages within the app as well. The webinar is over. It's already finished. All right. So now we're going to be looking at geolocation and selecting different languages to use in your app. I'll just get back up my InDesign file. Right. So as you can see here, normal page, got a header, there's some text, but when you single tap, you have obviously your Oomph navigation as you always do, but also up here you've got language, and we've put in Chinese, and of course it's changed it. So this isn't an automatic sort of changing the words thing. This is actually content that's been built, and it actually swaps between the two. So we'll go back to English. And this doesn't have to be just used for languages. We've had some clients that have used this in the past for location. So at the moment, you can do it for different states in Australia. So say instead of here, you had location rather than language. And then say if you building an app and it had ads depending on what state the user was in. Say if it was travel, for instance, and you wanted something specific to where the person was living, sort of like close travel locations. You could have New South Wales, Queensland, ACT, Western Australia, WA, all of these in here, and then have content for each of those, and then it is swap between them. So you could have different content for each state. And I'll quickly show you how that's actually made. So as you can see here, this is our first one in English, and then that's our second one in Chinese. So we've actually made the page twice. It is making content twice, and just tailoring it for that audience. And in our page, sorry, in our Oomph files, so our P1-1, the one that comes up straight away when you're there, is the English one. Then we've got down here, we've got ZH, so this is the other language. So sorry, here, language, got ZH, and then you've got the other language in there. And all we have to do is just put that second content, the P1-1 in there. So it's really exporting pages the same way that you always have. It's just putting it in a different folder and then turning on the geolocation. And it's really actually quite simple. And that's all you have to do. There's no sort of naming hotspots. It's just popping the content in there. And away you go. So if you do have any more questions that I would like to know more, there is some information, which is quite good, on the Oomph documentation page. So we'll be posting links to this as well. So as you can see here, multiple languages, and it's got examples, like working examples of stuff we've done. So Discovery would be one of them, Discovery Magazine. So just type in content localization into Oomph documentation. And as I've shown you here, it's really quite simple to use. It's quite a good feature. Right. And another feature, which is not too new, but it's new to some people, is search. So you can now search within the app. So as you see, sorry guys, when you tap on the page on your iPad, you'll see a magnifying glass up the top, and you can now search the issue. So you can type in various things. Obviously, I only have one issue in here, so it's not going to come up with much, but you can search multiple issues if you've got a magazine style app, or you can search each of the, say if you've got a monthly publication, you can search, or some of you have bi-monthly, you can search not just in the issue that you're in, but all of the issues. So say you're a travel magazine and you've done a feature on New York. If you type in New York, it'll come up with where that name is throughout each of the issues that you've published. So how does that work? So you can either have it as I've got up here, or you can actually have a tap to search on the page so the user doesn't have to continuously come up to this icon. So you could just have on the top of your page, so you've got a story on New York or New Zealand, whatever you want, and you can have it anywhere on your page. Just tap to search or tap to learn more, tap to search more, and it'll bring up that search bar. So I'll show you what that hotspot looks like. So got here our page, and then search. It's pretty simple. All you have to type in is search with a capital S, and it'll actually bring up that menu. And if you want pre-filled search, so say if you had a sporting magazine and particular rugby games, you wanted to search for news on a particular rugby team. So you have the Warriors, you can just have Warriors here, and it'll come up with the name already in there. We've done web clip in there, and all you have to have is search, comma, web clip, just the phrase that you want the user to be able to search, and it'll come up with content already in there. So custom animations again, it'll come up with custom animations, and all of your content will appear in here that has that tag on it. And that's how search works. It's again fairly simple. And lastly, we have custom widgets. So this is using third-party applications to gather information. So some of you may have seen, particularly some of our existing clients, we've shown off a few apps that use Typeform. We did one, ARIC 13, a real estate app last year. And this is using a third-party application called Typeform. It's online, so there's a few out there. We use them for live polls, we use them for forms, questionnaires, widgets, and there's a huge amount of ones out there. So the one that we've used is Typeform, and it's a good way of gathering data. For this, you can make questionnaires, you can gather information, but also the beauty of this one is that, and it's also not that expensive. It is an extra cost because obviously it isn't an Oomph feature. It is an external company that we're putting in here, but it actually exports to an Excel spreadsheet, so great for you guys that love data. But we'll get back to the Oomph part of it. You can actually embed this really easily into Oomph content. So we've done a quick one. Would you like to use forms in your app? Yes, I would. And it goes to the next question. Using Typeform within Oomph is easy. Yes, it is. Continue. And I can enter in my website. And this will actually, you can also do names, email addresses, and this will actually send it either to your email. Say you've got it you're at an event, or you're just making a questionnaire on your iPad, you want to ask people things. It's a quick way of putting in data, so I can just put in, and I'm going to submit that. And then in the back end of Typeform, it's going to send that website through, and thank you for completing our form. So to put that into the app is relatively simple. So we'll come down to features, just a normal hotspot, and it's just an object one. So we'll look at what's inside our object one to make that work. Custom widgets, so we've got a P1-1, object one, and we've got this file. We've actually just made this in text edit, and all it is, and Jack, one of our other designers, has set this up. So he's gone to Typeform, he's made his form, so he's got a login, all of that. Then you go to exporting it or previewing it, or publishing it, and it'll give you, links to Facebook or to websites, wherever you want to embed it. If you want to embed it in an email, send a link to it. We've just copied that direct link and we've given it a name. So just copy the link in there and then just popped it into our text edit file. And we've just named that S1-1. And then instead of saving it as a animation or a text file, plain text, we just give it the extension of .url, and then we pop it inside our content. So again, we just put into, even from Notepad or Text Wrangler, whatever plain text editor you use, have a new document, plain text, put in your URL that you've got from your third-party widget, and then just save it as s1-1.url. And then whatever's inside this object, it will put that website, that web page content. And it's as simple as that. And then it's got links as well. So Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, you can have these linking to whatever you need to as well. So those are all of the features that we had to go through today. We're going to have a short question and answer time now. So if you guys do have any further questions, or anything you wanted to know, or if you maybe wanted links to certain places, now's the time to ask. I'll just leave it for a couple of minutes for you guys to type anything, and Leanne will tell me. So feel free to ask. But, if not, thanks for coming along today and listening. Hopefully it was helpful. Yeah, hopefully you learned something.
Does Oomph have a feature where you can link to certain pages of different issues? Same app.
The best way to do that is probably bookmarking. You can't link directly. You can bookmark pages. So unfortunately, say if you had a January issue, we're currently in October, you can't link to something in that issue, but using the search feature as well, you can search for it. So say you had obviously a travel magazine and you had January tips, you could search if one of your headings, say if your heading in the January issue was January tips, you could just type in tips for travel or whatever, and it would come up with the story, and then you can find it from there. But as far as just a page link, you can't link to it. But by all means, search would be a great way of doing that, because it's very, very similar. But you could also use pre-filled search as well. So say if you knew the heading of the article in the January issue or the other issue that you're doing, you could just have it in here as pre-filled search, and it'll come up with all of the content here. Yeah, but it won't take you straight there from the page. So that's probably the best way of doing it.
With custom animations, can you explain the structure of the code?
Yeah, of course. So let's go back to we've just been asked to explain the structure of the code in a little bit more detail. So, let's go through this one. I'll go through a couple of them. So, okay. When you download moving from left, moving from right, moving from top, moving from bottom, the automatic animations that you download from the Oomph documentation page, it'll basically take this form. These brackets are just stating events. So obviously everything has to be enclosed in the code. This is JSON or JSON type of code for animating. And these two brackets just define the start and end points. So everything is enclosed within these curly brackets. Then we've got animation, so it's stating that what is happening inside these brackets is going to animate. And then we've got in here actual content, and then start point of the animation from here. So we've got first one, duration. The 2, that's standing for seconds. So anything that like a length of time is always in seconds in animation files. So you can change that to whatever you see fit. Anything from 0 to however many seconds you want it to last for. Delay. So delay will be a period of time before the animation starts. For all of the animations you saw today, they started straight away. But by all means, you can have them waiting. So say you wanted your robot to sit, or if you're not using a robot, whatever image you have on the page, for, 1 second or more, you could have that pause there for a moment before it does start. And then options. So easing in means that when it starts, it's not going to quickly go straight away. It's going to slowly build up to the speed that it's going to continue at. And easing out just means it's not going to stop all of a sudden. It's actually going to slow down slightly before the animation does end. Auto reverse means that when it reaches the end of the animation cycle, so say it's moving from left to right, that just means that when it gets to the right-hand side, it's going to automatically repeat and go back to the beginning. Repeat just means it's going to repeat that. Repeat count, that's the amount of times it's going to repeat. So in the robot, that repeated 5 times. Type, center, that's just, so that's the, I suppose, key point in the animation. We'll wait for this to stop. That's sort of much like in InDesign, when, let's get my InDesign. That's like a reference point. So you see here, when you're creating text in InDesign or anything, you can align a reference point. Center just means we've centered our reference point in the middle. And then from, so before it started, go back to the blue, this is the blue one we're currently working on. It starts. Where it starts here is 0. And as one of our members asked before, can we just start at this point? Yes, we can. The reason we've got this as minus 150 is because we want this robot, sorry. Sorry guys, I've been talking for a while, I'm losing my voice. Okay, so this is 0. This is where it's currently sitting. We want it to start from the left-hand side of the page. So it's going back to 150 at the start. By all means, you can start this being your 0 point if you really wanted to, but you don't have to. And then, oops. And this is your X coordinate. So X is going across the page and Y is going down the page. So this is going, so this is 0. So if you look at your iPad page, 0, 768 pixels. So it's again 0, 1024 pixels. And that's 768 pixels by 1024. And this is moving to 150. So this is a 0, this is minus 150, this is 150 here. So it's going to be moving minus 150, 0, that's 150 there. So it's going to be moving left, right, left, right. And then this is our from value, and this is 2, so it's going to be going from to there. And then completion, our other animations that had multiple instances on them, they had some information here. This one finished at this point, so we have nothing happening in our speech brackets, speech marks, sorry. Let's go to one of the other animation files. And you'll see here, very similar to before, from and to, much like we had in the other one, but on completion, instead of having those speech marks, we've got the start of a new animation. So like we have here, up the top, we have opening bracket for start of animation content. And it's starting, duration, it goes for 1 second, no delay. Again, we have the options, it's going to repeat. When it gets to the end of the cycle, it's going to auto reverse and it's going to ease out. It's going to repeat 1,000 times. The type, transform, that just means it's going to be moving left to right. You saw before that type was alpha. And one of the other ones, that just means it's going to change the opacity of the object. This one is actually moving, so it's going to be moving somewhere on the page. So as you see, it's going from 100% to 110%. No translation. Translation is moving X or Y coordinate. Rotation, so rotating, none of that either. And then completion, nothing else is happening there. And the reason we've got so many brackets here is because each of these brackets have to match with what's going on up here. So obviously, that is our full content. This matches up this one. So there's 2 animations sitting in there. And this is the start and end point of the 2 animations together. Then we have what's sitting in there, so that bracket and that bracket. Then we have our from duration down to completion. So this is the single animation. This is that animation contained within the completion of the first one. These are the two animations in total content, and of course the whole package in those two brackets. And hopefully that explains a little bit more of the animations. So once you get used to them, they are quite simple. It's just sort of the first time you see them, you think, oh, that's a lot of numbers, but it's quite friendly. Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. So combining these animations together. So you saw in the final robot there was pulse fade. So in this one, rather than having a completion, we had two animations together. So the first one, sorry, I'm going to cough again. Sorry, guys. Okay, so our first animation, we have, it goes for 4 seconds, delay of 0.5, and of course alpha. So the alpha means fade, so it's going to change opacity. It's going to repeat. It has an auto reverse, so when it gets to the end of it, it's going to reverse and go back to the beginning, and there's an ease in and ease out, so it's a slow transition. So 0.2 stands for 20% opacity, so the 1 being the whole number, 20%, and to 99% opacity, so almost 100. That's our first animation. So inside those two brackets, that's our first package. Then normally here we'd have completion, which means the first animation, sorry, our first animation ends and the second one begins. But because we want these to occur simultaneously, so at the same time, we just put in a comma, and then we start like this. We've got another bracket for our animation. So then all our animation content for the second part, which is occurring at the same time, occurs here. So duration, 1 second, there's no delay. It repeats. When it gets to the end, it reverses and goes back to the beginning, and there's an ease in and ease out. So it's slow from start to finish. Like it's a nice subtle transition rather than starting, same speed, ending. And type, transform, so this one is actually going to be moving, so it's a scale rather than alpha, which is opacity. And from, so 100% wide and 100% high, no rotation, no translation, to 90% high, 90% wide. So this one, you can actually stretch it if you wanted to. So if you had like, 100, 200, it'd be wider than it is tall, but of course we just do 1 to 1. That's just a ratio. So it's going from 100% to 90%, and then it finishes. So completion with having nothing at the end of it. And on both of these, they repeat, they auto reverse, and they ease in and ease out. So it's going alpha, fading from 20% to 99%, and it's going from 100% in size to 90%, and then it's repeating, auto reversing, and then that continues. And that's it. And then again, that's one animation, that's another animation, and then we just have a comma, and then they will occur at the same time. If you wanted to have one starting and then another one starting at the end of that, you put it inside completion like we did in the previous example. And that's it. Cool. No worries at all. But yeah, this has been recorded, so if you guys ever want to come back and look at it again, please do. But hopefully you learned a lot, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for coming along.